Got out to see Marvel's Thunderbolts movie, but is it the superhero team-up flick you've been waiting for? Let's talk about it. I've been looking forward to this movie for a long time. A lot of my favorite actors working in Hollywood right now are in this one, and it was exciting to me to see all of these actors come together for this superhero tale about a bunch of misfits. This is essentially the bad news bears of superhero teams. These are superheroes that really just punch and shoot. They don't really have a lot of super heroic abilities. Some of them have been injected with super serum, so they have some real strength. Some of them have been really well trained to be assassins, like Yelena Bolova, played by Florence Pugh. And all of them have a great sense of humor, and that was really the combustible element here, is that all of these really fine actors, some of them are great character actors, working together and bouncing off of each other. I kind of felt like I was going to be in for a good time, and essentially that is what you find in Thunderbolts. It's really these connections, these relationships, these little moment-to-moment scenes where each of these actors are kind of jousting with each other and making fun of each other and having fun with each other, that really light up the screen and make you laugh and smile and chuckle. I really like this movie. I thought it was a very solid film, and one of my favorite things about this movie is that it dives deep into the idea of that imposter syndrome and that living up to expectations and thinking about yourself as less than some of the other heroes that are out there. All of these characters, whether it's Yelena Bolova or it's Red Guardian or it's the Winter Soldier or it's U.S. Agent Wyatt Russell coming back to play the faux Captain America, they're all broken. They're all contemplating their realities and what's brought them together and what's brought them to this point. They're also all agents working under Valerina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is awesome in this movie. She's never not awesome. There's always just this Machiavellian smile and all of these sort of evil quirks, kind of a different shade of the silly, over-the-top, vain character that she plays in Veep. It's interesting, right? Like, she can get there, and she has a delicious take on the lines that she's got and the motivations that she has as a character.
Who is this old Santa?
I'm Alexei Shostakov, the Red Guardian.
What?
The puppet master, and she's pitting all of these characters against each other and to her own ends. And they are all caught up in this big mystery about this new character played by Pullman, a guy named Bob, who has some interesting abilities and some interesting powers. And so all of these different broken superheroes meet this other new super entity, and they have a showdown. And that was a very intriguing component for me as I was leading up to this film. I know a little bit about the character of Bob and what that would mean for the wider MCU, and I was excited to see all of that play out on the big screen. I'm not going to spoil it, but there are some terrific effects, and some of them are in the trailers, which I'm showing right here, where Bob has this ability to disappear people into shadows, and it's a very striking visual effect. It looks so freaking cool, and it does for sure on the big screen as well. And I saw this on a nice big IMAX screen, and everything looked great. There are some great effects in this movie, and there are some great action sequences, but we have seen the top-tier Marvel experiences, and when you put that branding on there, I can't help but feel like, all right, show me something we have never seen before. And I think to some degree we get that with Bob's powers, but we have escalated to some amazing highs with Avengers films and some of the core individual superhero films along the way. And Thunderbolts, just like the characters it's representing, doesn't ever reach those highs. You know, it's cool and it's fun, but it also feels a little stakes-less because everybody is riffing on each other and there's great little character chops and so much comedy throughout the thing. It just doesn't really ever feel like things matter as much as they could. They don't quite have the same amount of impact. And so I was definitely kind of missing that, but I think we've reached this interesting point with all of these Marvel movies. They've been going for 18 years now or something like that. There are so many stories in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now that they can get a little bit more granular, a little more detailed, a little bit more into the weeds with where they're going with these characters. And there's some interesting psychological exploration that's happening here, some truly authentic and empathetic sort of takes on mental illness and how people function with mental illness, and superheroes function with mental illness, which I really appreciated. And certainly Florence Pugh is just a marvelous performer, no pun intended. She's amazing to watch in whatever she's doing, and she's awesome as Yelena Bolova. She's obviously having a great time in this role, and there's a lot for her to chew on. And Louis Pullman, who was kind of this unknown entity for me, I saw him in Top Gun Maverick, but of course he blended in with all the other characters, but he's got a lot of sort of isolated moments in this, and he's the real deal. He's terrific as Bob. He is a lot of fun to watch, so it's really cool to see Louis Pullman and Florence Pugh go head-to-head on some stuff. I also like Wyatt Russell. He's got this really dark edge to John Walker, and sort of what the darker side of being America's superhero might mean for somebody, what that would do to your psyche. I like the way he approaches it. I also, you see the family bonds. You see a little bit of Kurt Russell in Wyatt Russell. You can't help, he's the son. So you could almost feel like that Snake Plissken as a superhero kind of vibe, which I like. Same thing with Louis Pullman, who was Bill Pullman's son, and you can see that sort of rising to the occasion heroic quality that Bill Pullman has in Louis Pullman as well, which was pretty cool. But I'm also a massive fan of David Harbour. The guy just makes me smirk and smile and laugh. He's just a funny dude. He can't help himself, and as this Russian blustering buffoon of a superhero as Red Guardian, he's just a lot of fun. He's always fun. Whenever he's got a line, whenever he's throwing something out, he pisses everybody else off. Sebastian Stan's okay in this one. I think he's kind of pushed to the background a little bit more than I would like. He's such a prominent and important character across the MCU. But in this, he's just kind of playing the surface level of the Winter Soldier. I guess because we've seen him in a lot of stuff. And we also get Hannah John-Kamen as Ava Starr, the ghost character from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I thought she was great in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's a very solid action performer. She totally stands toe-to-toe with all of these other actors that we've seen in more sort of prominent roles in the action space. And it's a bit of a surprise that Ghost is back, but it's a very cool character with this great ability to zip through walls and kind of teleport from place to place. So she's fun to watch, but there isn't a lot of plot and a lot of story around her and why she's there and how they all fit together. And honestly, there is quite a bit of exposition all the way through this film where people are trying to define themselves and explain why they are in this moment and how they got there and what's broken about them. And that was okay. I also felt like the directing of the film, Jake Schreier is the director, and he hasn't done a lot of films. He hasn't really kind of carved out a cinematic library that I can point to and go, oh, that's a Jake Schreier movie. And honestly, I feel like Marvel would really stand to benefit from working with directors that have carved out a look and a feel and their own kind of tone and template for how they want to, frame their scenes and move the camera and put the action together. And this just felt a little bigger budget Disney Plus television to me, It just felt like there were more toys in the toy box, but it felt a little dry in terms of the camera work and the directing decisions that I saw and some of the editing decisions. There could be a little bit more crackle to all of this stuff, and we've seen that, Winter Soldier and Infinity War and Endgame and even Age of Ultron with all the swirls and swivels that Joss Whedon back in the day did with the camera technology and putting the Avengers on screen together for the first time. We've seen some incredible highs. Iron Man 3 has some incredible camera work that Shane Black put together for that film. Some really cool stuff. I even like Favreau's stuff with Iron Man fighting Whiplash in Iron Man 2. We've just been able to see so many spectacular moments across this franchise, across this universe that's been built for us, that this feels shy of that. But it is fun. I'll tell you my score in a second. I took my daughter Ruby to see this movie with me. Let's hear what she has to say about Thunderbolts. Hey Ruby, what'd you think of the Thunderbolts?
It was such a good movie. I wasn't really expecting anything amazing, but this is one of my new favorites.
Who was your favorite character in the movie?
Probably a tie between Bob and Yelena.
Why those two?
They have the most personality, and they're the ones that we got to explore their backstory. I feel like the other characters kind of were left untouched. I don't know if that was purposeful, if they want to focus more on the other characters in other movies, and that's why they kind of left them there, but I'm not sure.
Did you like the action in the movie?
I did. I thought it was the perfect amount of suspense and laughing moments and the sad moments. It was awesome.
Who made you laugh the most in the movie?
Bob.
Why?
Because he's the comic relief.
What did you think of Bob's powers?
I thought that he was way too powerful for a guy named Bob.
One of my favorites is Red Guardian. What do you think of Red Guardian?
He's funny for sure. He's definitely also a comic relief. Again, we didn't really get to explore him that much, so I didn't really appreciate him as much.
These are not the top tier Marvel superheroes. Was that part of the fun for you?
Yeah, it was a bunch of kids that were being left with the scraps and they had to fight their way to the top again.
Was there something that you thought that the movie was missing?
Not really. I really liked it. I wouldn't change anything.
How does this stack up with other Marvel movies that you've seen?
It is tied for first place with Wakanda Forever for me. But I might just be forgetting the ones that I watched when I was a kid.
So what are you going to give Thunderbolts?
10 out of 10.
Wow, you loved it.
I did. I really liked it.
Thank you, Ruby. Great points. I'm so glad that you loved the movie. I think that's awesome. I really liked the movie. I didn't love the movie. I'm going to give Thunderbolts an 8 out of 10.